What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Stoppage Time Stooges. It's episode 26. We're in an international break, but we're previewing everything that's going to come after that. Premier League title race. We got a Real Madrid recap, more bets. It's a jam-packed show, but guys, how we doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Can't complain.
No, we're great. We're great. Hopefully by now you've watched our recap for the Nations League final, but we're on a little bit of a red, white, and blue train right now. So, I mean, I figure let's take some time. Let's get off that. Let's go look at the club situations around the world, and because man, it's gonna be a big summer for the US. We got a lot more US to talk, but let's let that settle down for now. Let's get back to work.
Jacob, how we doing?
Swell.
Oh, different word. All right.
Well, that's if you notice, this is what happens. This is what's happening every week. This is what's happening.
I'm full of surprises.
As we well know.
Shall we get started?
I mean, yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, let's do it. So we're going to start off with the Premier League title race, one of the biggest stories in Europe. We have three teams within a point of each other going into April. We're going to start the end of March, but pretty much a stretch run of a 6 to 7 weeks of three teams. It hasn't happened in a while, certainly since I've been a fan heavily of the Premier League. So this is awesome from a neutral's perspective for those of you who are not affiliated with those clubs. But I think we'll start off with Arsenal, and you'll see on the bottom of the screen their remaining fixtures. It's going to be tough right out of the gate. Manchester City away. Both teams dealing with some absentees. We'll see if any of those guys can return before Sunday. Jacob, I'll start with you. What's your feelings on Arsenal going into this run?
My feelings on them are, I guess I'm really curious to see what they do. I really dug deep in the weeds to look at their schedule and see the kind of teams that they have yet to play and what's it like for them for the rest of the Premier League campaign. And what I noticed was that they have 9 games left, four of them are against teams below the top 10. But obviously that means they have 5 games against teams that are in the top 10. They have to play Wolves. They have to play Manchester United, the second to last game of the year at Old Trafford. I think that game could be very important because to me, let's say Arsenal are still in this point. Maybe that's the game where they can clinch the title. Conversely, for Manchester United, maybe that's the game that they have to win if they want to stay in the fight to make it to the Champions League. So I think that game's going to be really important. With the way Arsenal have been, another thing I guess I've noticed is that ever since January, the middle of January, they've really turned a corner. They've won 9 of 11 games in this calendar year. And the thing is, in December, they had a really shaky month. They won 3 out of 8 games, I think, in the month of December. And they went 3 straight games without a win. And then they lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup on the 7th of January. So they kind of were in bad form, and then they sort of just clicked and it turned around. Now, I will say that they do not have an easy schedule. The part of the reason they are in this position is because they beat up on a lot of those awful teams, and they've played them already. So they don't have a cakewalk for the rest of the season. So we're going to see how that goes, especially this weekend when they play Manchester City, which I think is their biggest game in years, a very, very long time. I don't think Arsenal have had a game of this magnitude and this significance, barring you want to tell me the cup finals, all this stuff. Okay. But as far as the league itself, this is a game of the utmost importance because this is not the best City team, obviously, which is why they're not in first, although they're only a point away. But with the injuries that they have, obviously Ederson might not play. Kyle Walker picked up an injury in England's friendly against Brazil. He might not play. And De Bruyne's been sort of hobbled all year long. So let's say all 3 of those guys can't go for Manchester City. That's huge for them as far as massive blows are concerned. And I know this is at the Etihad, and I know that City are very good at home, but I think if Arsenal want to win the league, they have to win this game. They can't lose. They cannot lose this game. If they lose this game, just killer. but I really think that they have a good shot. I think the thing that may kill Arsenal is themselves, where I think that maybe they get a little too worried about the moment, the pressure, the hype with everything that they have to do. They still have Champions League games to play. They haven't won a title in 20 years. It's been 20 years since they've won a Premier League title. It's been a long time. Their fans have been wanting this for a very long time. I'm sure the players know that the pressure that they're under. Mikel Arteta, who played for Arsenal, is now their manager and obviously knows that this has been this big long-term project. And I'm sure he really wants to get this monkey off his back as well. So, yeah, I think Arsenal, I think they have what it takes on paper. The team is concerned as far as that. I just question if they won't have another collapse like they did last year.
I think that's a really good point. Andrew, I want to go to you. Last year, 2 games within a 2.5-month span against Manchester City when Arsenal were at the top. And I think in the second game, they were still within striking distance. They showed up in neither. It was 4-1 in the second game. That kind of pretty much put the bed away for them. It was all but over at that point. How do you think this iteration of Arsenal can cope with going to City on Sunday?
Well, here's the thing. Arsenal, as Jacob alluded to, beating up on some poor teams. Let's be frank in the Prem. But as of late, they've been in great form. But will this international break hinder that form? Is my question. It's gonna be about 2 weeks about the club playing, and I mean, playing with different teammates on their international teams, could that, could there be some growing pains? So that's what worries me with their first match being City. If this City match was maybe, if you swap this with Luton, who they would play after City, I'd maybe feel a little more comfortable as an Arsenal fan if I was an Arsenal supporter. But this being the first match out of the gates, out of the international break, boy, that's a task for the Gunners. And I as I've said in the past, I can't doubt Man City. Absolutely can't until they prove it to me. Until someone beats them and knocks them off the mountaintop. So right now I'm sticking, and as we'll talk about Man City later, I'm sticking gun ho to my belief that Manchester City is going to finish this all the way through somehow, some way. They'll overtake and they'll take Liverpool as well. But Arsenal, this is a bad spot for them. With the worst of their schedule coming for them in this gauntlet to end the season, I don't like it one bit, and not to mention the Champions League quarterfinals coming up for them as well, against Bayern. This is going to be a tough stretch, and I don't like it from.
Ricardo, what's your take on Arsenal in this current moment?
Well, just going off the international break, that can be applied to every team, really.
Sure, but
no. What are you gonna say?
No, I was just gonna say that this is a team that's inching to be at the top of the league, trying to win the league. So it's gonna impact them a little more than, say, a Brighton, who are not looking to be at the top of the league.
Great, right? Well,
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
It's the
so
fact
it's gonna
that
be.
They were so good before the international break. You take 2 weeks off. Can that stunt their rhythm? And especially in this game, because Jacob mentioned it, I think it's the biggest game of their season, given the way last year's fixture went, because they just got played all over the place. They were stretched. I think they were missing guys at that point. I think Rob Holding was playing one of the 2 center backs. So can a younger squad, for the most part, find a way to get a result? Because again, and I'll mention this, Ricardo, before you continue, the last time the 2 other title contenders matched off, it was actually right after an international break in November. And Liverpool scored an 80th minute goal to equalize at the Etihad. and they shared the points. Can Arsenal do the same on Sunday? I think that's the biggest question because, Jacob, I think your analysis is spot on. If they lose this game, given that they have the Champions League round of 8 for the first time in a long time against Bayern, who have scored a lot of goals as of late, can they cope with all this? I don't know. I don't believe so. But if they get a draw on Sunday, if they somehow get a win, because no team has went to the Etihad this year in the league and won. It's 4 draws, 10 wins. Maybe that changes everything. But Ricardo, continue, please.
Well, for one, Arsenal's healthier than City, so that's a point in their favor already. And yeah, it could, the international break, yeah, potentially could maybe hinder that, and maybe not that they have to go back to square one, sort of, but yeah, it's just because they were playing so well. Like, yeah, I do understand that point, but I mean, it's they were in this situation last year, though, in the sense of like this high pressure game, and half of these players, I mean, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, I think Gabriel, there were a handful of players that are still very much in the squad from from last year. Though that's another year of growth for them. I'm sure Arteta, and that alone, like from not really showing up in those 2 games, like you can't tell me that's not going to motivate them to play, right? To play even better and try and block out the noise. Like that's ultimately that comes down to the managers, the players. They got to believe in themselves and used last year. I mean, bottling it all together. Well, I mean, just that was bad last year, clearly. But they got to use that, fuel that, and really use it to their advantage, because otherwise, it's going to be City's title again. And I mean, Liverpool we'll get into, but it's just I think they're more mature after the last year's debacle, after their total collapse of what should have been their title, really. So I think that those reasons alone, that motivation, can push them forward. I'm not saying they're going to win, but at least I think they have a better shot this time around than last year.
I think one thing to mention too is the goal difference, which Jacob alluded to, the goals they're scoring against Sheffield United and Burnley, Luton Town. They have 7 goals more in positive goal difference than Liverpool, and they have 11 more than Manchester City. And these teams are separated by a point. Liverpool and Arsenal are level on 64, Manchester City at 63. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if 2 of these teams finish on level points through 38 games, and goal difference is going to make the difference. So Manchester City not only needs to win, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, they're going to need to win on Sunday. They actually might need to win by multiple goals just to make up some ground, because, Manchester City also has the Champions League. Liverpool's got the Europa League. So all these teams are going to have to cope with multiple competitions. City, I think we all would agree, has done this year in, year out. So we believe that they're ready to cope, ready to, manage multiple competitions. But yeah, I mean, with an 11 goal difference between those 2 teams, winning by multiple goals on Sunday would be critical in my eyes for Manchester City. But again, we'll touch on them shortly. Anything else on Arsenal before we move on?
I have one thing that I want to post to the group. Considering how good this year has been for Arsenal, would you say if they come out of this year without any kind of a trophy or winning anything, is it a disappointment?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's, I mean, this is probably their
best. They did win the FA Cup. Yes, they got Liverpool a little early. Unlucky still. They weren't there for the Carabao Cup either. And I also agree that I think if they don't win some kind of a trophy this year, I think it's disappointing, because they didn't last year, did they?
No.
They didn't win the FA Cup. They did not win the Carabao Cup.
Their last trophy was in 2020, that FA Cup against Chelsea. Yeah. So it's time for this project to reap its rewards. That's the reality of the situation. I think young team last year, understandable. You're going up against maybe the best team in Premier League history, or at least this era. And you need to go one step further, especially when City's been missing De Bruyne, Haaland's missed some time, Liverpool's, in transition. At least that's what many believe. They've dealt with some injuries too. Arsenal, I think, of the three, have probably remained the most fit. At least their key guys. I mean, I know they've missed Gabby Jesus for a while. But again, I think most of their players have been fit for the most part. I mean, the only long-term injury was Jerry and Timber. And, Kyrgios stepped up at left back out of position. So I think Arsenal, without any trophy this year, it's a disappointment, given that the teams around them maybe not have been as sharp as they've been in previous years.
Yeah.
But we'll move on to Liverpool, who are currently in second. As I mentioned, same amount of points. Weird stretch after, an international break, coming off probably one of the more disappointing results. Wasn't in the league. It was in the cup against Manchester United and didn't manage the game well, as we've talked about in one of our recent episodes. But right now, to me, I look at a couple different things here, and that Manchester United trip in the league is going to be a difficult one. I think we saw, for maybe one of the very few times in this league season, Manchester United dug deep in that game right before the international break. They found a way. It wasn't their best performance, but again, you get a goal from Antony. Maybe that brings some confidence to him. And we'll see how Marcus Rashford, Højlund, all these guys, how they mix in together. But I look at that game, and I look at the 3-game run where they play Fulham away, Everton away in a derby, and West Ham away. Those may seem as games that Liverpool should win comfortably, but Fulham played them very difficultly in the Carabao Cup semifinal. They've been pretty good at home. I think they rank 7th in points at home this season. Everton, it's a derby, and honestly, I think they're still going to be in a relegation battle at that point. So the energy at Goodison is going to be ramped up to another level. And West Ham, is a decent mid-table team that's playing in Europe, that has won some trophies under David Moyes. So I think the Manchester United trip, to me, is going to be a massive point in this season. If Liverpool can win that match, it might be the difference maker. And I think those 3 matches, they cannot drop points in any of those, really, because City are going to be able to string wins together. Arsenal, to me, still look really strong. So to me, Liverpool really got to take care of business in those 3 matches in order to potentially win a league.
I would agree. Man U seems to play Liverpool really tough the last couple years. If you remember, I know Christian remembers this. The last year, early August, United got off to this really bad 0-2 start with Ten Hag. And they had a game against Liverpool at Old Trafford, and they won. And it sort of sparked Man U's run last year, where they looked like a really good side. And this year, they held them to a 0-0 draw at Anfield, which is a very tough thing to do. Liverpool's form at home is absurd. They never lose at home, and obviously they didn't lose this game, but they were held to a goalless draw, which is impressive in my opinion. I think with Liverpool, it's funny. Every time I start doubting them, they always sort of have they pull a rabbit out the hat, and they pull off some win that they shouldn't have won, and I find it interesting how, with Jurgen Klopp announcing that he's not going to be there anymore at the end of the year, he did it in the middle, like the heart in the middle of the year. I don't think it's really affected the team at all. It really hasn't. I mean, obviously that United loss in the FA Cup was pretty bad when you consider they gave up 5 goals to a team that really struggles to score in many games that they have been in this year. But I do think that they have a good shot. If I had to give you who of the 3 that we're going to talk about between City, Arsenal, and Liverpool, I would say Liverpool the 3rd best team. But I wouldn't rule them out. I really wouldn't. I think if they don't win the league, I do think they're going to win the Europa League. I don't think they're going to go away empty-handed on top of the Carabao Cup. And you got to talk about Darwin Nunez has really stepped up this year. Obviously, people talked ad nauseum about how he really struggled his first year at Liverpool. This year, he's gotten a lot more consistent and become a much better player. Obviously, Christian can talk a lot more about Wataru Endo, his impact as a holding midfielder than I can for that bargain of a deal. And obviously, Salah. We know how good Salah is, and he's done it again. So Liverpool, I think, are going to be a big threat. always, but I do agree with Christian that some of these games that they have are very important where they can't drop points if they want to win the league.
Yeah, and
No, you got it.
All right. Well, I'm going to be quick anyways because Jacob and Christian did a great job, I think, nailing this on the head for Liverpool. But I want to point out real quick just how, people can say all they want about Liverpool or FSG not really putting in the necessary funds for Liverpool, but man, do they spend it smart. They are, I think, one of the smartest spenders in the sport right now. Just what they're able to get. I mean, you're praising Wataru Endo.
How much did he cost?
Around
was it under? I think it may have been under, which is absurd.
I mean, just the fact. I mean, it's hilarious. I know he hasn't been too great this season, but just as a Brighton fan, I just want to be able to get Alexis McAllister.
I think he's been awesome, actually.
Yeah, but for 35 million is just incredible when you consider that Chelsea spent 115 million for Moises Caicedo, who arguably was a less important player to Brighton compared to McAllister.
Don't get him started.
So just to be able to spend this smart time after time, it's really a testament to their sporting directors and just the recruitment, what they've done at Liverpool, and hey, they're contending right now for Premier League trophy, and for Christian's sake, let's see if they get it done. But no, I think out of the bunch here, out of the top three, I like the way Liverpool's schedule aligns the most. I think you got a good start with my Brighton and Hove Albion. That's going to be a brutal loss for us. That's going to be brutal. And then going on to play Sheffield, but both at home at Anfield. And then, Man U just had a brutal FA Cup performance with them. Just how do you let Anthony score off his weak foot, off his weaker foot. Just we talked about that already, but man, but I think that's gonna spark a fire within them to get revenge. So I like the way that matches up for them. So out of the bunch, I like the schedule. We'll see if they can finish it, get it done. You cannot waste these points here with these favorable matchups. Really, I mean, you can't. This is Liverpool's to lose right now. I think out of the three. But like I said before, and we'll get to it. We'll get to Man City. I still think Man City finds a way to get it done.
It's interesting you say that Liverpool's is probably the most favorable schedule. I honestly could not disagree more. We'll talk about Man City's, but like this is a gauntlet of games. Just like United, Palace, you probably win that. Like you said, Christian, at Fulham, not easy. You had to come from behind to win early in the season, right? Was that this season? They were like
that was the game where Endo scored the crazy goal from outside the box and Alexander-Arnold.
And then Trent, yeah, exactly. So like that, they'll give him a good.
I think
game.
you're overrating Fulham. I think you guys are overrating Fulham a little. Because
maybe a little bit, but again, I've watched them play.
I understand, because Fulham have turned out some of the most pathetic performances of any team.
Okay, yes, but on their day when they're
they are the most. I think they are one of the most up and down teams in the Prem.
Which is
they definitely are.
Yeah. And it just shows in the table.
Yeah. They just smashed Spurs 3-0. But that's not a given. Everton, it's always a tough game. Sure. West Ham, that's tough too. Spurs, when they're on too. Villa, like that's
one. I'm glad you mentioned it.
Seriously, you can't tell me any of those.
I don't think Villa Park is as big of a dungeon as you think it is. Chelsea won their 3-1 easily in the FA Cup.
Yeah, I mean,
That was a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it
But
is.
still,
That is a good point.
that's not an
They
easy
lost to
game.
United there. They lost to Chelsea at home.
But if you
That's
think that they're
another
going to
loss
be
they-
coping with Europa League at that point, still assuming they get through Atalanta,
But I'm
there's
just
potential for letdowns in that run. I agree with you, Ricardo. That is true.
but my point being that is just a brutal stretch of games, and that's not even including the other competitions you're in. I mean, the Europa League that you're in. So, obviously the probably the bigger thing out of all of this is the injuries, player health, I guess, because I mean, yeah, you've had players come back, Salah's back, Soboslai's back, some important players, but it just seems like I don't know, every like a couple of players every month, just a couple of big ones too, or even depth pieces, like they did just suffer some sort of injury, and those can be devastating. I know it happens to every team, but for some reason to Liverpool it happens way more often than it should. I don't really know why that is. Maybe they're just cursed like that, but it's just they're so unfortunate with that. So, I mean, the players like Endo's going to be huge, and during this stretch, I mean, Christian obviously he's had such a huge impact with them, and the City game was very obvious how much of an impact they controlled the midfield. I mean, most of that game, really. I mean, De Bruyne did nothing. And Salah has to stay fit. It's just these factors that I just think, Liverpool, if these things go their way, if they can get through this gauntlet and players can stay healthy, then yeah, obviously they'll be in contention. But it's just question marks on the health front, and you just cross your fingers that they can stay healthy. But those youngsters have stepped up too, so that's also encouraging that even if there are injuries, that these younger guys can come in and do a job.
Yeah, for me, I think Liverpool is number 2 at the current moment. I would still pick Manchester City, and we'll touch on them in just a minute. But I think it's because of the injuries. Allison, he's out for at least a couple more weeks, it appears. Kelleher has been awesome. So the difference maybe more significant in years prior. This year, not really. I think Kelleher's been awesome.
I agree.
He's come off his line. He's been very aggressive. He commands his box very well. I think Kelleher, if Liverpool wins the league, is going to be one of those unsung heroes, along with Endo, along with Joe Gomez, who's played 4 positions, Connor Bradley. I mean, the list goes on. There's so many players that have missed time. Joel Matip's out for the season. Thiago's played 10 minutes, and he's one of the highest earners at the club. Alexander-Arnold's missed time. If they can manage these injuries and Jota can get back, Darwin's dealing with an injury right now that he picked up in that United match. Curtis Jones, who had a really good, 4 months before getting hurt. That's the key for me, because if they can get some guys back, because they got to manage 2 competitions, and Klopp's going to go for both of them. He's not going to rest against Atalanta to prioritize the league. So it's going to be an interesting one. I would still pick Manchester City, who we'll touch on right now. But for me, Liverpool just slightly ahead of Arsenal just because of the experience and the fact that they're in the Europa League versus Arsenal, who's playing Bayern in the Champions League. But we'll touch on Manchester City, who all of us believe, I would say, number 1, but they're actually number 3 right now on the table, only by a point, of course. It feels like this is their opportunity, particularly on Sunday, to really put a dent into one of their title challengers. Ederson injury, that's a big one, but I think Ortega's pretty solid. And, we talked about this off air. De Bruyne dealing with something. We'll see if he's a go for Sunday. There's some other players as well. And Kyle Walker, a big miss if he's not available Sunday. But it feels like Manchester City's just ready to go. And I think getting a point at Anfield, they didn't look very good. And they still got a point at a place that's so difficult to go to and get anything from. So for me, I think they're number 1. But Jacob, I'll start with you. Your initial thoughts on Manchester City going into the back end of March, April, and May.
I think they got a great shot. Obviously, they haven't been consistent. That's the thing that worries me with them is they have lacked being consistent. They haven't been. A lot of their wins have not been nearly as convincing as they have been in years past. Holland's still really been terrific, but it seems like there's something a little off with his game. He's not making as many of the chances he'd make last year. He's still really good. It's kind of weird. I feel weird like talking about him in like this negative way when he's still having a really good season, but it's just not as good as it was last year. But then again, that's a very hard standard to match again. I think that this has been the Phil Foden coming out party this year. It seems this year he's been on fire. It seems like he's finally showed that he's a superstar. We kept waiting and waiting and waiting. We kept hearing, oh, wait until Phil Foden gets to play. And then this year it's like, okay, no, this is legit. This is something else. So, and then you mentioned Rodri, who I've raved about forever. To me, he's the best holding midfielder in the world by a mile. I don't think it's close. And now he scores goals and he gets assists. He has 11 goal contributions this year in the Premier League, which is crazy to me. I think Ederson being out is a pretty big deal. I know Ortega's solid, but I think Ederson means a lot more to Man City than people give him credit for. Not even with stopping shots, just because of the fact that he can, at his feet, he can hit the ball farther and harder than anybody else. He sometimes is the one that sets up their attack. And I think Walker being out is a big deal because they don't have a real backup right back on the team that I would feel confident about. Cancelo's gone. To me,
Rico Lewis. That would be
yeah. I almost think they'd be better off playing a back three this weekend if Walker can't play, which is sort of what they've been doing because they have. Just play Ake, Stones, and Diaz in a three, and just I don't know what you do for wing backs. Maybe just
I think Akanji could also play
and then
right
Akanji.
back, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
he'll piece it together somehow. He always
may be
does.
better doing that. But as far as City's concerned, I don't think they're going to go away with this year empty-handed. We keep talking about all these teams that they need to win a trophy. I don't think City's going to leave this season empty-handed. I think that they still got a great shot to win the Champions League. I know they got Real Madrid, but Real Madrid have a lot of injuries, and this is not the strongest Real Madrid team that they've had in recent years, and they beat them last year when they were more healthier. So I think about that. Obviously, they have Chelsea in the FA Cup. Obviously, for me, I hope they lose that game. But let's say they beat Chelsea in the FA Cup. They get either United or Coventry. I feel pretty confident they can beat either of those teams. I don't think that it would be an easy game for them with United as much as they've dominated them in recent years. But I think with City, it's more just about can they stay healthy, and are they gonna have that kind of hunger to win all three again? Win 3 trophies again, they've been at this for such a while now. It's you wouldn't hate them for the fact that they're sort of getting fatigued from having to chase all these trophies. I don't think they are, but you can tell that this year it's been a bit harder than it has been in years past. I'm not saying this is the end of their great run. I'm just saying that I think that it's going to be a dogfight for them to win trophies this year. I'm also going to pick City to win the league, for the same reason that Andrew did, which is that until I see them held up from it or be stopped, I'm not going to pick against them. So I do think they're going to win the league somehow, some way. And I am very interested to see how they play against Arsenal this weekend.
We all agree that I as well think City, if you asked me, taking my fandom aside, I think that right now you would have to pick them as the favorites.
Yeah.
Ricardo and Andrew, you agree?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. But we'll see how that unfolds. Obviously, Sunday's a very important match, which we'll discuss. Before we get into the top 4, anybody believe that Arsenal takes something away from this game?
I think they got a great shot to win. I'm having a hard time picking who's going to win, thinking of who's going to win this game.
Well, for the sake of my best bet this week, we'll wait and see.
Yeah, actually, we'll leave that to the end.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
That's
all right.
1-1 draw. If I'm just throwing my prediction out there. No involvement with my bets whatsoever.
But let's move on to the top 4, which maybe doesn't get as much headlines, but very entertaining. Aston Villa and Tottenham, both of them feel like they don't want it at moments. Teams are dropping points left, right, and center. We don't have to put the fixtures up because we've gone too long. But this is a discussion. It's fascinating to me because Aston Villa were so good before the turn of the year. I mean, they beat Manchester City at home. They beat Arsenal at home. It felt like they were beatable at Villa Park, and then they dropped points against Sheffield. That was a turning point to me. And ever since, it just feels like it's one step forward, two steps back. So I'll start with you, Jacob. Over the course of the season, Aston Villa's been really good, not so much. Really good, not so much. What do you think of them going forward?
I don't know if I trust them, to be quite honest with you. The form that they've been in since the January 2024 has been happening. I just don't feel that good about them. They can't seem like they can play. They can put a full 90 minutes together where they're in control of the game. It seems like they lack a cutting edge. When I watch them, I'm kind of like I want more out of them. I'm not again. They've been a great story. Obviously, you remember that Villa was in the championship not too long ago. So considering the fact that they're in the hunt for a Champions League spot is pretty incredible. But of the three teams that are competing for this last spot in the top four, they're not the one I trust the most. I think Tottenham are the best of the three. I firmly believe that. I also don't trust them that much. Because I said this, I've been on this for a while now, that ever since that Chelsea game where they lost 4-1 and they suffered multiple injuries, and they finally lost a game or whatever it was, they have not been the same. They have not been the same since then. They've had a lot of bad results against inferior teams. It's been a lot harder for them to win games. It's taken a while for their attack to get going. A lot of their goals have come late in the game and not early. But they do. It seems like they are somewhat getting off the injury bug. Obviously, Maddison's back, which is huge for them, and we saw how big of a deal his loss was. His injury was when he was out of the team. How big it was and how much it affected the squad. So I do think that they'll still be in it. And United, I don't know which team I'm going to get. That's the problem. There can be times with United where they look really, really good for about a half an hour, and then they forget what they're doing for the next half an hour, where they just look completely lost. I mean, some of their inability to have possession is astounding to me. It's absurd. I mean, they let Luton Town control the game after United was up 2-0. Luton, for crying out loud. And I get that's not Ten Hag's not all about like possession. That's okay, but I don't trust them. Like they lose to Nottingham Forest 1 week and then they beat Liverpool in this thriller in the FA Cup. I will say this: Mason Mount is back. I don't know how much that's going to mean. He's been out for a while. They spent a good amount of money on him over the summer to be a difference maker. We'll see if he can do that. It seems like Marcus Rashford's playing a bit better lately, considering how bad he started. It's not saying much, but I feel like his form's definitely gone up a bit. It sucks because Rasmus Højlund was in this great vein of form. He had like 6 goals in 6 games or whatever it was, and then he got hurt, which really stung. But he's back now. It seems like Ten Hag knows the team that he wants for the most part. It's not a lot of like figuring out what team I want. It's more just about can they execute each and every week. And I don't know. I just don't know. I would not be surprised if they beat Liverpool. And then I just want to check their schedule. If they beat Liverpool and then they lost to Bournemouth the next week, that would not surprise me at all. It just wouldn't, because that's what they've been the entire year. They've been inconsistent. So I guess to answer the question, what do you want me to give you who I think is going to get the last spot?
Yeah, sure.
Tottenham
and then United?
No.
Remember, they do have a game in hand. I will mention that before you go. Aston Villa's played 29. They're up 3 points on Tottenham, who have a game extra, so they could level them. And also, Aston Villa has one more game played than Manchester United. So if Manchester United wins that game in hand,
I think it's going to stay
4th and
the
6th.
way that it is right now.
With
4, 5,
Tottenham.
and 6.
So you think
Yeah.
Villa stays in top?
No, you know what? Yeah, I've changed my mind. I think Villa's going to reign at 4th. I cannot. I just.
It's a tough
want. I want to believe in Tottenham from the standpoint that I think that they have a really good side, but I just can't. I can't do it. Every time they got killed by Fulham. Like what? They got shut out by Fulham. Like, I really? I mean, I don't know. Something's off. Last thing, I don't know. I don't know why Daniel Levy refuses to spend money. There's no reason for them not to for them to be silent in January.
He spent all this money on a stastadium.
Oh, he didn't. He wasn't silent. Actually, I thought he was the most active.
I know, but they were all like moves. Like,
is that because Timo Werner played for Chelsea?
No, it's not even about him. It's just about like they have. I feel like they have money to spend. They didn't sign Madison for a huge fee, or even some of the other guys that they got. Like, when are they going to spend $100 million? That's what I want to know.
On one player or just in a window?
That's what I want. If I was a Tottenham fan, that would be my dream. Can you spend $100 million on one player, whoever that is? Because they need more. They need a little more. They have a very good team. They have a good squad. They just need more.
Ricardo, what do you think of the top 4 race?
It's all over the place. The only thing I feel confident about is United not getting top 4. That's about it. But all 3 teams are just inconsistent. It just doesn't make sense considering how they started off their seasons. It's Villa and Tottenham specifically, but these 2 teams have some big games left. Spurs, they still have City, Arsenal, Liverpool, at West Ham still. And you look at, Villa, they still have City, Arsenal, Chelsea. Well, I guess that's still pretty big because you never know with them. Liverpool too. It's just, I don't know. It's just whoever doesn't throw it away. If Villa doesn't throw it away, then yeah, they'll be fine. But both of these teams are just looking for some sort of consistency because neither of them has it at the moment. So, but if I had to pick, I think I would go Spurs in 4th. I'd have them above Villa, and it might come down to goal difference. I don't know, honestly, but it's just that chaotic and just a bunch of question marks about them both.
Before the season, I was called a madman. I was called a madman for having Aston Villa 4th in the Premier League this season. So for the sake of that, I have to go Villa. I have to ride Villa. And that I have these dreams, these flashbacks, these callbacks to that December, this past December. Oh my God, the Arsenal's in my head. Man City, all these great performances. And it's just it's clouding my judgment here because Villa has really been really streaky this past few months ever since that point. But because I picked them to be 4th, I have to go Villa. Now here's what concerns me, and this is something only Andrew could say. Leon Bailey's international situation might be a problem. Is it gonna get in his head a little bit? His boycott of the Jamaican Football Federation. I don't know.
I don't think it will.
I don't think it will either. That's what I'm saying. Only Andrew will be worried about these things. Okay, that's what I'm saying. But no, I have to ride Villa because of what I said preseason. But to be honest too, like I don't know. Tottenham and Manchester United just have a recent history of not really showing up, and so I don't think they're going to get to 4. And for the sake of my story and their story, I have to go Villa. It would be cool. It would be cool to see Villa at 4. It would be. Okay.
I don't
What
really
do you
care
mean?
about that.
Interesting.
You
As a
rather
top-
Spurs before?
as a London-based club, you would rather have
No.
Tottenham? Okay.
No, I wish it'd be United fourth because my father would be a lot happier, but that's just not going to happen. So,
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's-
in an ideal world, if it was me, it would be United fourth, Villa fifth, Spurs sixth. That would make me happy, but that's not going to happen.
And I agree with Ricardo completely. Man U does not have a chance. I think this is down to Villa and Tottenham right now.
I want to believe in United, but no. It's you have to throw them in there because again,
Sure.
if they win their game in hand, 6 points, Villa and Tottenham are not playing well enough to believe that they can retain a 6-point advantage over 9-10 games. But I think the difference for me is Aston Villa playing in the Conference League. Tough matchup against Lille. They're a really solid team, a team that's won Liga pretty recently, and they've been in Europe for a number of years. And the injuries. If Ollie Watkins goes down, this thing is done, it feels. And,
Probably right.
he's been playing hurt. I know in a
Very
couple
well.
games I've watched Villa, he's, limping around at times. It feels like he's dealing with a knock. And I know he's with England at the moment, so he's clearly recovered from whatever that was. But I just worry what they can generate in the final third if Watkins goes down. I mean, he's been so durable ever since he came to the club. If he stays fit, I think they still remain in the running for it. But I will say, Tottenham played them better than many teams have all year. I know Villa are in a bad run, but Tottenham went to Villa Park recently and won 4-0. And that, I think, really should have turned the momentum. But, I mean, we all talked about it, and everybody's brought it up today. I mean, Tottenham looked awful against Fulham. Just didn't show up. And they weren't generating no chances. They were overly exposed defensively. Sure, Fulham's good at home against, pretty much anyone. They play pretty much anyone tough there at Craven Cottage. But Tottenham's healthier. They're not in any other competitions versus Villa, who are injured and in the Conference League. I'm going to go with Tottenham slightly over Villa. But again, Ricardo, you said chaos. Everybody's talking about the nightmares between both these teams since the turn of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if either one finishes in fourth. But to me, I'm going to give the slight edge to Tottenham. No pushback on that. All right. Let's
Well, I was with you. I said yeah, Spurs.
again, usually when you and me are on the same side of this, it doesn't go well. But
No, it doesn't. Yeah, so that's great.
we'll continue to bring it up until
They called me a madman.
But let's move on to a different league and give some shine to Ricardo and Andrew, who are going to get the return of Real Madrid this weekend. Some good news, some bad news. We'll start with the bad news. Thibaut Courtois down with another injury. It's such a shame. I mean, he's missed so much time, and it was an injury in training. So yeah. I feel terrible for him as a fan because he's, again, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. So whichever one of you wants to start, what's your feeling on that? And what's your trust in the goalkeepers within the squad who are currently available?
Real quick, I want to thank Ricardo for bringing me back to my senses. When the injury initially happened, I was so excited for Courtois to come back. It just meant to me, no more Kepa. I love Lunin, but I was just like, Kepa would be done. I wouldn't have to see him in a Real Madrid shirt anymore. It's over. But this injury happened, and I just screamed no, like Darth Vader in Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith. But Ricardo brought me back to my senses. We were in a little text chat, and he goes, "Andrew, don't forget about Lunin." And I was like, "Thank you." Lunin has been an amazing bright spot this season. Lunin is, I remember when we were talking a few months ago, saying, why is Carlo Why is Carlo going back and forth between Lunin and
Yeah.
Kepa? Because there's a clear difference. Lunin is miles. He clears Kepa, and Jacob just wants him back at his pathetic club.
I want
But-
to cry. You're killing Kepa.
Killing Kepa. He's done it himself.
No.
Yeah, yes.
He's done it himself.
All you think I wanted to do was he had a dream. He wanted to play for Real Madrid.
Well, he did. He did.
Just like you ruined Hazard and then you ruined Kepa.
No.
Ruined
I'm
Hazard.
Let me just say, they ruined themselves. All right, so they were washed. They washed themselves. All right.
I can't
Don't get
admit
into that argument.
No, we gave Hazard a bag.
I'm not.
That you did.
I can't admit that he ruined himself.
He did
Yeah.
though.
So
The day he makes the Premier League Hall of Fame or is nominated or whatever it is, I can't do that. But anyway, please go on.
So my conclusion: we believe in Lunin. We believe in Lunin. We believe in Lunin. So no, I am not worried about the injury. I hope Courtois comes back healthy. I mean, when healthy, to me, he's the best goalkeeper in the world. But I am okay I feel content with the goalkeeping situation for the rest of this season. Let's go, Lunin.
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much summed it up. Now, then I'd be worried if Lunin were to go down with an injury. Then the whole world's on
That's the thing.
fire. Then that's
Yeah.
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 Then if Kepa has to play, oh god, I think I'd cry. But yeah, no, Lunin has saved us so many times this season. The Leipzig game twice, both legs, is the first thing that comes to mind. So
Goalie
I don't think
interference.
Kepa would. I don't think Kepa would have saved half of those shots, but it's just Lunin has done a great job, and there's talks about him potentially getting an extension. And I also said this to you, Andrew, but it could have been worse. We could have had a way worse situation on that front, and at least it wasn't Eder Militao, which we might get into later. But goalkeeping wise, yeah, I think we're fine. So that answers that question.
Did you? I mean, what was the injury that Courtois suffered over the summer?
Torn ACL.
I mean, did you really think he was going to come back this year?
Well, I
I
mean,
mean, he had a shot.
yeah, it would have been 8 months if he came back. So April. So it would have, would have been a normal ACL recovery. It's not like,
yeah, I guess
would have been abnormal, but
And he's a goalie. Like, this man's not on the field. He's not a midfielder. Otherwise, it probably would have been a little longer. Maybe.
right.
It's not as much movement.
Yep.
I'm not discrediting goalkeeper. Well, yes, I am. What am I saying? But I don't know. I don't think it would have been as difficult to come back from, if that makes sense. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't know.
Also, Lunin obviously is not better than Courtois, but if you're Lunin, is there any part of you that's like, I could be a number one somewhere? You don't think? You don't think there's?
I
You don't
think
think
so.
that's going through his head?
Sure.
It should. But I want to
I
keep
mean,
myself.
I mean, you'd be happy to have him back. I'm not disputing
Yeah.
that. I'm just saying
No.
for me,
You're absolutely right.
I'd think about if I really want to play a lot, maybe it's not going to be at Real Madrid, most likely. So
Yeah.
Although Courtois is getting older.
31.
You know?
That's not that old, though.
No,
in soccer it is.
No. For a goalkeeper, Buffon went until he was 40. Like,
Yeah, but
doesn't mean he was good all the whole time.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah.
okay, Casillas went to like 36.
we saw what happened to De Gea as well, and
That's a different story. He just sucks.
He's been unfairly treated.
That's okay. That is true.
He does not suck.
He
I'm
was
sorry.
thrown out of the team. That's not his fault necessarily, but
my point is maybe Lunin knows something that we don't know.
yeah.
He is out of contract at the end of next season, so we'll see if there's something done in the summer. I think he's been awesome. You guys have attested to that. He's stepping into big shoes, and made a lot of great saves. I mean, the game that comes to mind for me is the first leg against Leipzig. There were some unbelievable saves in that game that kept them afloat. And without that, I don't know if they get through. It was just, I mean, there's so many big moments that he's been able to stay calm and control his area. So I think he's been really good. If Real Madrid can advance past Manchester City, I think he'll be a big reason why, because he's going to have to make big saves across 180 minutes. But big shame for Courtois. I know he's going to miss the Euros. I think that was kind of decided before even this bump in the road. But yeah, again, Andrew mentioned it. I mean, when he's on his game, maybe the best goalkeeper in the world. I mean, look what he did. I mean, the game for him that comes to mind for me is the game against Liverpool in the Champions League final. I mean, he made 3 or 4 world-class saves in that game. And, he continues to do that. He's unbelievable. And it's, again, as a fan,
that was a good day.
Yeah, not for everyone. But
I enjoyed the hell out of that one, boys.
So three out of the 4 in here.
Yeah. Oh well.
And the other one, when was that?
Oh, geez, that was 2018,
17,
17-18 season. Sounds right.
I think yeah.
That was even better, but I won't make Christian feel any worse.
But let's finish this topic off with a much more serious subject, and it's something that's been in the media specifically today. We're recording this on Monday. You'll probably see this later tonight. Vinicius Jr., of course, has dealt with a lot of racism in Spain. It's been a really awful thing to watch for someone who's a fan of the sport. He's 23 years old. He's berated by fans pretty much everywhere he goes, and it's so undeserved. And today I believe it was a 40-minute press conference answering questions brought to tears. It's awful. And, we've talked about this off air. We've talked about it on the podcast. Racism in soccer is something that we see pretty much everywhere, especially in Europe. It's a problem in Italy. It's a problem in England at times. Spain. I mean, it's something that's not needed in the game. Really not anywhere in the world. But Vinicius at 23, standing up to this and being at the forefront of that. I mean, I'm really proud of him. I mean, how can you not be? I mean, he's taking questions about something that he should not have to be talking about. But in 2024, this is still an issue. I applaud him for the way he's taking this because, again, I mean, there's been so many occasions. You guys know this, Ricardo and Andrew, watching it. I mean, so many games, just hearing it through the audio. I don't know how he's dealt with this as well as he's had at 23. We don't understand it as we're not in the position of him as a man of color. I don't know how he's dealing with it as well as he is. It's such a shame. But Andrew, I'll go to you. What was your thoughts just hearing him speak today?
I will run through a brick wall for that guy. You know what my favorite answer was? A reporter asked him if he would think about moving, get out of the situation, and he goes, "No, there's work to be done. There's work to be done here, and for that reason, I need to stay. I need to stay at Real Madrid. I need to stay in Spain to fix racial tensions, to help ease them, and help just to help this new generation." And I Christian, you nailed it right on the head. I applaud him. I already love the guy. I love him even more now. To have the courage to go up there for over 40 minutes of reporters just going down question after question after question about the situation, and he's still going. I loved it. It really shows the type of person he is, thoughtful person Vinicius Jr. is, and that's the type of player you want in the club. And for Ricardo, I'm sure I could speak for him on this. We're lucky to have him at Real Madrid. We really are, and especially a team of a lot of black players. Real Madrid. to be able to help lead that club and try to, maybe use that platform to ease tensions in such a racist country like Spain, and in just hearing stories of people traveling to Spain. It's insane what's said as a foreign when you're a foreigner going to Spain. Specific parts. I know I was reading, and just from anecdotal stuff I've heard, just Madrid is one of the better parts of Spain when it comes to this situation. It's pretty diverse over there, and so maybe that's part of Vinny's reasoning for staying too. But I'm happy that he said this. It's out there, and I'm glad that he's going to continue to fight, and his play on the field, on the pitch, can be open some eyes in Spain, and it's what's needed in the world. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, it really sucks, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tough to watch. I mean, it's just a man trying to play the sport he loves, really. I mean, that's what he said. But the thing that like kind of got me was just, I just want to play football. This is, I think, translated. I just want to play football, but it's hard to move forward. I feel less and less like playing. Like, that sort of thing is like just demoralizing. I mean, just all the racist things and acts that have been done, all the things that have been acted or said during games. I mean, there's so many instances of Valencia, Osasuna, Atletico. I mean, Barcelona even. It's just, yeah, it's everywhere. And that to me is something has to be done about it. It doesn't help when the higher ups of La Liga or any league downplay this sort of issue, very serious issue. It's just you're not helping, you're not listening to the player, and it's not like no one's going to go out of the way and lie about these things. Like, and it doesn't just happen to Vini. It's happened to players across all different leagues, and it's just and these leagues are typically run by older white men as well. So that's part of a reason why they turn a blind eye. But I mean, it's just like these are your best players. At least in Vini's case, this is one of the best players, if not the best player in La Liga. Why, as a president or as one of the higher ups of La Liga, would you not want to, I don't know, protect him or at least try and fight for him? Because, like I said, he's one of the best. He always puts on a show. He's very talented, very skilled, and he's only 23. He's only going to get better. And so, even all the racist stuff too, it's just like that'll drive players away too. Like and if these higher ups aren't punishing fans or teams, fining them, whatever, like you're still enabling. It's still going to play a huge role, and it's going to exist just across the league and the sport. So to me, it really is. You could do all this, like say no to racism's crap and on shirts and armbands, whatever you want to do. But that's the bare minimum. That's like you have to do more. Like it can't just be all for show. It's like, oh yeah, we're like passively showing our support for combating racism. That's just a bunch of BS to me. Like it's just all a bunch of talk. It just more has to be done across all leagues on that front end. I feel like maybe more players, specifically those who are white, should also be, supportive. Not that they're not, but more outspoken about it. So, I mean, I think just there could be a better job done across all fronts. But really, I think it comes down to listening and having an open mind. But it's way easier said than done. But this has to be combated and minimized, and there just has to be a way.
we're recording this before the CONCACAF Nations League emergency episode, but there's a situation with the Mexican fans chanting a homophobic slur every time Matt Turner made a goal kick, and it's the same thing. There has to be some sort of punishment for the fans. You can't just put a warning on a big board. That's not enough. That's not enough. You gotta make it clear to the fans that this has no place in the sport, and you don't do that by stopping play for 5 minutes. Okay, that doesn't do anything. That, in fact, that's one of the smartest things Alexi Lawless has ever said. By the way, it was on Twitter. He said that you're empowering these fans by stopping play. You're just letting them continue to chant these things during the stoppage of play. The same goes for what we're talking about right now. There has to be. I don't know what that solution is yet, but I feel like a solution could have been made if all attention and focus was put into it. And clearly, La Liga doesn't show that. And to be frank, I don't think UEFA shows it that intention. And up at the top, FIFA. It's sad to say, but I feel like if all the focus was put on it one summer, something could be done. But nothing's happened yet. This has been a long-standing issue. Long-standing.
Yeah.
And you can't just be putting out 5 words on a jumbotron saying, "Hey, stop."
Yeah.
We stand with these players. It's never going to work. It never has. And sad.
Yeah, I agree with everything pretty much that Andrew and Ricardo said very well. This is heartbreaking. It's hard to talk about. It's sad to see. You never want to see that. The fact that Vinicius Jr. has gone through this for quite some time, and there doesn't seem to be no end in sight for this problem that is never ending. And for him to be brought to the point of tears and talk about how, I think he did mention now, I thought about leaving Real for the sole reason of getting away from this. But, you mentioned that he wants to stay because he doesn't want to bend his knee to the racist people. And it's hard. It's sad. And, Andrew and Ricardo talked a lot about, punishing fans and this and that UEFA and all these organizations need to do more. My thing is just, I don't know if there's a solution to this problem. You can ban a lot of fans, but the problem is that these clubs care too much about people being at these games. The leagues care too much about stuff like that. It's also, this is not a defense. This is also like, it's hard to single out, like when you see a racist chants, I don't think that people are just going to want to take an entire section of a crowd and say you're all thrown out.
And nor should that be the case. What I'm proposing, there has to be some long-standing initiative. You can't just,
No, I agree.
It's just you can't just take 20,000 people out of a stadium.
Yeah.
You can't.
That's the problem. It's like it's very hard to crack down on something that is so specific, if that makes any sense. Because, I don't know what you can do. You have someone at games and stands there for the sole reason to find if people are saying racist things or not, and then, ID them or whatever and get them thrown out. I don't know. I really don't know how you fix this. That's maybe the saddest part of everything that we've talked about is that I don't know if there is a solution to fix all this. You can give me all the sayings and hashtags and initiatives. You can do all that until the cows come home. I don't know if it's going to do anything. I remember, I think the Premier League still does this where they take a knee to racism before the game. And I think it was Wilfred Zaha who said, I'm not going to do this because what's the point? You think this is going to stop people doing stuff like this? What's the point of us taking a knee? And I get his frustration. I get a lot of these players' frustrations, and it's obviously undeserved. It's pathetic. It's disgraceful, and you shouldn't have to worry about something as idiotic and stupid as this. That's another thing that I think about, because it's just terrible. I mean, it's 2024. We're still doing this kind of crap. I mean, really? I mean, you can boo, you can jeer players without being racist, homophobic. All these things are doable without, hating on the other team without going to this level. You don't have to resort to this low. You really don't. I mean, that's another annoying aspect of this, is you can be prideful of your team, you can hate the other team, you can hate the other players, but you don't have to hate the people. You don't have to hate what they are. You don't have to hate what they are because of the color of their skin or this or that. I mean, it's absurd. I mean, we still have to worry about this crap, and that's what it is. It's ridiculous. And I just feel terrible for Vinicius and the fact that he has to deal with all this on a consistent basis. And it's a shame that it doesn't seem like there's a solution that will put an end to it all.
You go around and you go on Twitter and you see the excuses people make for this BS, and it's it's part of our culture. We've been chanting this for years, and it's just so blinded. It's insane that it's still happening, especially in this era. But it's a good point that you brought up, Jacob. It is hard to have a solution for something like that, and that's why there just needs to be God. There just has to be a change in culture. Maybe the solution is waiting it out. You never know. I don't know. It's crazy.
One thing before we move on, and Ricardo and Andrew, you can back me up on this if I'm right. I believe in the Valencia match, when he scored, he put his fist up towards the Valencia fans. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I think it's just such a powerful moment again, this is a guy that's our age. And that's what makes it hit home more for me.
I didn't even think about
Because,
that.
Yeah, good point.
It's, racism, no matter who it's towards in their age, is awful. But when you look at someone who's playing a sport, he's just playing soccer. I mean, football, it's very simple. He's playing a game. And people go to the furthest extreme to attack him, and he's on a pitch. He can't do anything. He's not going to go into the stands and go after someone. He needs to be the bigger person, which is not. It's just unfair. I feel terrible for him. I think he's a leader, a hero amongst so many people, because again, we talk about racism in Italy and England. I mean, it's all across the world in this sport as a whole. So, watching that and seeing the quotes today, I couldn't be more proud of him as a fan, as a human being, because, at his age, in the spotlight, how can you deal with it any better than he's done today? So, I applaud him. All three of us do. And of course, I hope the initiative to make things better gets progressively better over the next days and weeks and months and years, because I think there's been too much complacency with the racism and how that's been handled. You guys have touched on it, just the shirts and the hashtags. Things can be done better. I don't know what it is, and it's very difficult for all four of us to come up with a better solution, but something needs to be done, and soon, because the longer they let this slide, the more it's going to happen, because there's no punishments and no repercussions for that behavior. So, we'll see how that unfolds. But as again, we've mentioned it, it's very a proud day as a fan for all of us, because Vinicius is truly a leader and a hero for the way he's responded to the racism in Spain. But very, very difficult thing to talk on. I'm glad we discussed that. But let's finish off the episode with some best bets, pick up the mood a little bit.
Well, for some.
Yeah.
Because I never win, so.
That was also a problem for myself as well. But luckily, we got over the line over the weekend. Andrew, you want to start us off?
Sure. You remember how I was saying, I don't really want a draw in Man City Arsenal? Well, that's because I got Manchester City money line. Let's go, Man City! Let's go.
Don't say that.
Let's win the treble again, boys. No, I really hope not. I really hope not. God. But I got Man City money line. I got Real Madrid money line. Because obviously, why not? And FC Cincinnati. We had to put some MLS in there too. And you got that plus 779 on FanDuel. So if you put in $10, you get $79.54.
Love it.
That's crazy. I don't know what's crazier, the chance, or you saying let's go Man City, or
one time only.
Well, what if in the future you need Man City to beat someone for Brighton's favor?
Two times only.
Gotcha.
Or if it's Man City Barca in the final, that'll be another. Or let the
3 times only.
No, it's not a one-time deal.
How about Athletic?
I did.
3.5 times only.
I was gonna say, give me that raise that fourth finger up.
Oh, that's too good.
Yeah. But hey,
good value. All right, I'll give mine. I have two. I spaced them out, put a little less money on it to give the fans and the supporters of the show two options here. This is the second one. I was going between Arsenal and a draw, double chance. No, that's fine. We'll go with this one. It's fine. The injuries to both teams, it makes it interesting. If Kyle Walker and Kevin De Bruyne play, it certainly changes things. But I think there's a strong possibility that one of those two play. And if one of those two play, I think Arsenal, who have really struggled at the Etihad in the last 6 or 7 years, I think they only have one win in that period. And about all of their losses are by multiple goals. I wouldn't be surprised if City come out of the break sharper of the two and score some goals. So that's why I've gone with them to win by at least 2 and over 2.5 goals. That's at plus 340 on FanDuel, 15 to win 51-12. And then I'll go with my other one. It's Bournemouth money line against Everton. Bournemouth are home. Again, if they can beat Luton Town after going down 3-0 at halftime, I would assume you get a better start in this one. And Everton battling relegation, Bournemouth at home. I like that. Monaco are on the road. I'm going to pull up the team they're playing, and it is Mets, who are 17th in Liga. They're second to the bottom. And Monaco have been really good on the road. They typically do well against this team. I'm going to take them to win. And then Aston Villa are at home. Again, very dominant there. I know that we talked earlier about their struggles, especially since the turn of the year, but they're playing Wolves. No Pedro Neto. Nick Mateus Cunha is also going to be unavailable. So I don't know if Wolves have enough to create. And I think Villa, given the circumstances, the context, they need to win. I think they get it. Plus 439 on FanDuel, 15 to win $65.98.
You should bet on if Gary O'Neill will cry about some stupid VAR ruling again.
Minus 500.
All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go.
Okay.
No, I'll go. You go last this time. All right, so mine.
What is it? Just call this the London Slam? What the hell is this?
I didn't notice that.
Got 3 London teams.
In London, we trust, even though one of them's gonna fall apart. If also just
that's the London way.
For context, last week my parlay should have won, but because FanDuel doesn't do extra time, at the US, I had the US winning just generally the money line. For some reason, it just doesn't apply.
And that was the final leg of 3.
Yeah, so I didn't win technically. So yeah, otherwise it would have hit. So hopefully, I don't know. I mean, I'm still going with safer things, I guess. Chelsea facing or hosting Burnley. So I mean, it's Burnley. They're in the relegation zone,
Oh,
so
they
that's
better
my
win.
logic for that.
Oh,
I
they
know
better
it could be a letdown. Don't say it. Don't say it. I've already said it.
They
But-
lose to Burnley, we're getting a rant. I'm just.
I didn't say
letting you know
lose.
that.
I said they could
I
drop.
think if they lose to Burnley, we're gonna get a sole show with one segment, and it's just rip on Chelsea for an hour.
And I'll never bet on them again. So
I don't know if
That's
I don't know if I have that much in me, but we'll see.
So the second one, Tottenham hosting with Luton Town at home again. I know, throw everything we just said out the window about them being inconsistent, and just remember the Luton Town blew a 3-goal lead. All right, let's just stick with that part. That's my
what Luton
logic.
Town does best.
So even if Luton is winning at some point, I don't expect him to keep that lead. So I'm just going off that. Then Fulham to go to Sheffield. I mean, it's Sheffield. They're one of the worst Premier League teams in I mean, probably history, right? Yeah. So yeah, there's really not much more for that. So that's 20 to win, 33.88. I'm crossing my fingers that
Well done. Well done.
Please.
We need a winner here.
At some point, right? That's what all the gamblers say, but whatever.
Right. Jacob.
You know what it is. We're keeping simple, stupid. Tottenham are facing Luton Town, as Ricardo just alluded to. I have Tottenham, whatever this is, 20 to win 48, whatever that means. Tottenham do not score first half goals. They haven't scored a goal in the first half of a Premier League game since February. What is it? 3rd against Everton. Since then, in all their matches, they have not scored a goal in the first half. They don't score first half goals, and it's going to happen again, baby. They're not going to do it again, and then in the second half, they're probably going to destroy Luton Town 4-0. But in that first half, it will be 0-0.
Hell, Luton might even have the lead in the first half, then blow it.
Yeah, don't blow it. Don't worry.
And the best part of this is that I don't care about the second half. I just care about the first half. And as long as, I mean, obviously I don't want Tottenham to win, but if they get no goals in the first half, I'll be a very happy camper.
Just to clarify, if you're watching on YouTube, it's plus 240. That's on us. Plus 240 on FanDuel. So some really nice odds. Again, Jacob just gave you the reason why. It's a really interesting bet. So, yeah, I think that's a really cool one. Yeah, is there anything else before we head out?
Nah.
Watch the U.S. Mexico special.
Well done. Yes.
Also,
Please.
England, man, what a freaking joke against Brazil's B squad.
Endrick.
It's
That's not a
friendly.
slight at
Who
him.
cares?
I mean, come on, Gareth. Why are we parking the bus? Why are we playing Conor Gallagher? Why? You don't learn your lesson.
But you don't get it. Sir Jim Ratcliffe wants him at Man U.
Of course he does. He wants him or Grandpa. He just wants English managers.
No, Endrick, my boy.
Very good finish. Should have two, but
And then
Yeah.
Endrick put out that heartwarming letter to his little brother, his 4-year-old brother. That was
what
cute.
about the fact that he was like, "I want to score for Bobby Charlton"? I'm like, you know who Bobby Charlton is? I go, this gets made of the right stuff. I'll tell you that.
He's a superstar, and the fact that he's gonna be killing Mbappe's teammate, whew, man, yeah, that's killer.
That'll be.
Are we sure? But does anything worry you about the fact that if they get Mbappe, that could slow down Endrick's development?
No,
Not at all.
no. That's a topic for a different time.
Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta try it first.
Yeah, you're not gonna pass up the best player in the world. So,
That is true.
but
He's inevitable.
again, as Andrew mentioned, the topic, and Ricardo mentioned, topic for another day. But again, thank you for watching. We really appreciate you checking us out. Subscribe. Check us out on Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube. Of course, Andrew mentioned before. Please watch the recap to the CONCACAF Nations League. That'll be a good one. Yeah, check us out on Twitter. And of course, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.